Hi and welcome to episode 7 of our series in which we present Agentforce 5s. My name is Philippe Ozil, I'm a developer advocate at Salesforce. In the previous episode, we saw how to migrate from Aura to Lightning Web Components. In this episode, we'll focus on how to work with third-party MCP servers with Agentforce 5s. We'll start with a tour of the MCP server installation options. We'll then look at how to configure the GitHub MCP server, and we'll see how to use the GitHub tools with a demo. By default, Agentforce 5s comes with Salesforce DX MCP server pre-configured. And today, we're going to take a look at how to add third-party servers. Adding MCP servers exposes additional tools to Agentforce 5s. This grants extra power to the dev agent when executing prompts. There are 3 options for installing MCP servers, as you can see with these tabs. You can use the client MCP marketplace for a guided experience. Clicking install on one of each server tiles starts an interactive installation process with the dev agent. Note that not all servers from the client MCP marketplace work with Agentforce 5s, and in some cases you may need to tweak the configuration manually. Another installation option is to use the Remote MCP Servers tab. This works if you already know the Remote MCP Server URL. Finally, you can manually edit the MCP server's configuration file to add new ones. This last option is the most flexible, but it requires that you explore the target MCP server's documentation to specify the right parameters. Regardless of your installation choice, this configuration file is the single source of truth that lists all installed MCP servers. Let's now see how you can add a new server to this list. For today's demo, we're going to add the GitHub MCP server. This exposes tools that let us manage repositories, pull requests, issues, and much more. There are 2 types of GitHub MCP servers that you can connect to. You can either use the remote hosted server, or you can install and run the MCP server locally using Docker. We'll go for the remote hosted server, which is simpler to set up. We can grab the base configuration from the server's README, but we need to tweak it specifically for Agentforce 5s. I've already done so, and I saved the working configuration in a gist so that we can save a bit of time. I'll share the link to the gist in the episode resources, but let me cover the key differences. The first important change is that we're changing the server type from HTTP to streamable HTTP for the connection to work with Agentforce 5s. Secondly, we're using a personal access token, or PAT, as the authentication header. There's also some optional configuration that we've applied, and let me go over these items. Just like for the Salesforce DX MCP server, GitHub tools are grouped in toolsets. It's a best practice to only enable the tools that you need so that you don't overload the LLM with unneeded tools. You can do this by adding optional headers to filter on toolsets or tools. The last thing you'll need to do to complete the configuration is to obtain a personal access token, or PAT, from GitHub. From GitHub, go to Settings, select Developer Settings at the bottom, expand Personal Access Tokens and click Fine-Grained Tokens. Here you can see that I already have my token, but I'll show you how to create a new one. You'll need to set the token name so that you can keep track of it in your GitHub settings. Pick an expiration date. Select the repositories that the token will have access to. Grant permissions. This part depends on what you intend to do with the MCP tools. Typically, you'll want to add content, PRs, and issues to the list. Note that the default access is read-only, so you'll need to update some of these entries to read-write depending on your usage. Once you're done, you can click Generate Token. For security reasons, the token will only be displayed once. Make sure to keep it safe and never share it. Once you have your token, you'll want to copy it in your MCP server configuration file. After this, save the file. You'll notice that GitHub appears in the list of MCP servers, and if all goes well, the status of the server will turn from yellow to green. Once the server status is green, you can take a look at the enabled tools and start working with them. Now that we've seen the MCP server's configuration, let's work with it in a demo. Here we have an org with a recent account list component. We'd like to extend it with a toggle that allows the user to switch between this view and a more compact view with just the account names. The typical workflow for this scenario is the following. A business user creates a feature request, a dev implements it and creates a pull request, another dev reviews the PR and merges it. Well, with Agentforce vibes and our newly configured GitHub MCP server, we can do all of this from VS Code directly. Let's start with the feature request. I'm sending a first prompt that describes the feature and asks the agent to create an issue that tracks the feature request. I'll also ask for the issue to be properly labeled with the enhancement label. Here you can see that the dev agent is running a write issue tool from our GitHub MCP server. Now that the dev agent is done, let's check in GitHub that the issue has been created properly. Here you can see the issue with the requested feature and the proper label. Now that the feature request is logged, we can move forward and implement it. At this point, I would normally have to retrieve the GitHub issue by calling the read issue MCP tool, but I'm going to save some time here and just use the task context instead. I'll ask dev agent to implement the feature request with some extra guidance on the component to use and some shortcuts to speed up things, mainly skipping tests. Fast forward, we're done with the implementation. I can deploy the changes to inspect the new UI and let's say that I'm happy with it. At this point, I'll ask the agent to create a local branch, commit the changes to it, push the branch, and create a PR that references the original issue. Fast forward again, the dev agent handled the Git operations and called the create PR tool for us. We can now review the PR, make sure that it's tied to our original issue. Keeping this simple for the sake of time, I'll skip the PR approval and I'll directly merge it with this prompt. I'll also make sure that the issue is closed. That's it. Our PR is now merged and the issue is closed, as you can see. This concludes our demo. Note that you can use tools from the GitHub MCP server to manage reviews, leave comments, run CI workflows, manage releases, and much more. Remember that there are plenty more third-party MCP servers available out there, so don't hesitate to give them a try. That's it for today. You've learned how to set up a third-party MCP server with Agentforce vibes. We took a look at the different MCP server installation options. We then configured the GitHub MCP server and explored some of its tools with a demo that involved issues and pull requests. In the next episode, we'll cover how to work with DevOps Center in Agentforce vibes. Thanks for watching. I hope that you found this content useful. Make sure to like this video and to subscribe to our channel for more content like this, and see you in the next episode.